Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that is just so important for anyone who loves their dog. We're going to talk about those subtle, sometimes really surprising signs that your dog is trying to tell you they're not feeling well. So let's get right into it. It's the one thing that I think worries all of us. Your dog can't use words. They can't just come up and say, hey, my head hurts or my stomach feels awful. So how in the world do they tell you they're in pain? Well, they do it through a silent language. It's a language made up of their behaviors and these tiny little shifts in their routine. You see, it's a dog's instinct to hide their pain, because back in the wild, showing any weakness was dangerous. But when you learn to read these signs, you become their best advocate. And honestly, learning this language could absolutely save their life. Now, before we jump into the first signs, I just want to say, if you are truly devoted to your dog's health and happiness, go ahead and subscribe to Love Dogs. We're building a community here for people just like you, and we're here to support you. Okay, let's start with part one, when habits suddenly change. These are the signals we so often get wrong because, they can look like your dog is just being stubborn or maybe having a bad day, but it's almost always something more. This is where it gets tricky, right? We see a behavior and we can't help but take it personally. We think, oh, they must be mad at me. But the truth is almost always physical. So, for example, if your dog suddenly starts sleeping in a different room, they're not giving you the silent treatment. They're actually looking for a quiet, safe place to hide their pain. Or what if they stop coming when you call their name? It's probably not them being defiant. It could be the first sign of hearing loss. And this one is heartbreaking. If they don't jump up to greet you at the door anymore, it's not because they aren't thrilled to see you. It's probably because getting up that fast is just too painful. And this really says it all. A dog just doesn't get offended or hold a grudge like a person does. So when you see a sudden change, like where they sleep, you have to switch your thinking from emotional to physical. They're just trying to find a spot where they feel safe and comfortable, where they won't get bumped or disturbed. Here's another really important one, startling when you touch them. If your dog used to live for a good petting session, but now they flinch away when you reach for them, that's a huge clue. It's a direct signal that there's pain right where you're touching. It could be something on the surface, like a skin problem, or something deeper, like a muscle injury. It could even be pain coming from an internal organ. All right, let's move on to part two, when their body talks. So now we're going to look at more direct physical signs. These are the kinds of things that are a little harder to miss, but it's so important to know what they actually mean. Okay, everyone, please pay close attention to this next one. This is one of the most serious signs you could ever see. If your dog is pressing their head against a wall or a couch or any hard surface, this is not a cute, quirky habit. This is a major red flag. It's a symptom of a very serious neurological problem that needs urgent, and I mean urgent, medical help. It often means there's a dangerous amount of pressure building up inside their skull. So, what do you do if you see this? The steps are simple and there's no room for debate. First, you have to recognize this for what it is, an emergency. Second, do not wait. Don't watch them to see if they stop. And third, you need to go to an emergency vet immediately. Every single second counts here. Other physical signs also tell a really clear story. For example, if your dog is walking in circles over and over, that could point to a severe inner ear infection throwing off their balance, or even something more serious like brain damage. Stumbling around on a flat floor isn't just them being clumsy. It can be a sign of a neurological issue that's affecting their coordination. And refusing to jump up on the sofa, that simple action, or lack of it, is a huge indicator of pain in their spine or in their joints, very often from something like arthritis. And that brings us to our last section, part three, when instincts take over. These signs are all tied to the most basic survival functions. We're talking about eating, drinking, and breathing. Let's be really clear about this. Any change in your dog's eating or drinking habits is a major clue. A healthy dog is a hungry dog, right? So when that suddenly changes, something is definitely wrong. So let's break it down. Is your dog suddenly only eating if you feed them by hand? That isn't them just being spoiled. It often means that bending their neck down to the bowl is just too painful. And think about it, that could also be why they change where they sleep. Or how about drinking? Are they lapping up water in a weird way, maybe from the side of their mouth? This very often points to painful tooth or gum problems. And then there's the big one. Are they turning their nose up at their absolute favorite can't live without it treat? That is a huge red flag for serious nausea or some other illness going on inside their body. Now, let's talk about breathing. This is a vital sign you can check yourself right at home. For a healthy dog that's resting, and by resting, I mean calm or asleep, they should be taking about 15 to 30 breaths a minute. It's a really good idea to just count your dog's breaths the next time they're napping. It's great info to have. But if you count more than 40 breaths per minute while they're at rest, that is a serious warning sign. It could be an indicator of heart or lung problems, and it means their body is working way too hard just to get enough oxygen. And what about yawning? It's easy to just think, oh, they're sleepy. But here's the thing. When your dog isn't tired and they're yawning a lot, it's something called a calming signal. It's a behavior they use to try and deal with internal stress, anxiety, or even physical pain. So if you see it happening a lot when it doesn't make sense, pay attention. So we've gone through all these specific signs. But what's the number one takeaway? It's this. The single most important sign of all is any sudden change from what is normal for your dog. Nobody knows your dog better than you do. You know their quirks, their routines, their personality. Any change from that baseline is a signal that you need to investigate. And sometimes they'll just come right up to you and try to tell you directly, in the only way they know how. This quote just says it all. A long look with a soft whine is not a request for a treat. It is a plea for help. It's their clearest message to you that something is really wrong, and they need you. Which really just leaves us with this one final thought. To your dog, you are their entire world. You're their protector, their family, their best friend. So the question is, will you be ready to listen when they need you the most? By learning to understand their silent language, the answer can be a definite yes. For more essential guides on how to care for your best friend, please make sure you subscribe to Love Dogs. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being the person your dog can always count on.